Diving Deep are episodes where I talk to my guests about their life experiences, their wisdom, and knowledge, creating a space to share stories, connect, and give others hope. I truly believe we can learn from each other, and knowing someone has overcome what we might be going through can give us the power, hope, and faith to overcome our battles as well. I truly hope you enjoyed these videos. Don't forget to share, subscribe, like, and hit the notifications button. Today I have Alaina with me. When I started working at Dreamcatchers, I met her, and right from the beginning, I was like, she's gonna be my friend, just because of her character. And then as we get to talking more, we came to a conversation where she told me like, she had been in a long-term relationship like 6 years, and that relationship had ended. And I feel like sometimes as women, we tend to sacrifice too much of ourselves to stay in a relationship, to make it work. And I just wanted to talk more to her, and hear more about the story and learn more about her and like how she developed that strength, to take that step, because it's not easy when you love somebody that much.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, were there any things that, like, when did you first start sacrificing little parts of you?
Okay. So, just for some context, so this was a relationship that started actually like almost a decade ago now. Wow. At this point, I was in my early 20s, and we had met like volunteer coaching track, and so the relationship started a couple months after that, and I would say like the first few months like were really great. Like I didn't feel like there was any sort of like compromise. It was like very honestly probably like the first year, but like looking back now, I probably started compromising and like kind of like letting some of those pieces of myself kind of chip away, probably within like the first 6 months to a year. And I think that's like, first of all, my responsibility to take care of myself and be mindful to not let that happen. But also when you are young and in love, like I know it's like really easy to just kind of give your power over to someone else and just feel like you both have each other's best interests at heart, so that nothing bad could happen. When I think love is a lot more complicated than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that point when you came into, okay, I cannot sacrifice this. And what led you, how did you process that? Because it's not easily, okay, well, I'm going to terminate my relationship of 6 years like that. Obviously, you have to go through some thinking and like, evaluate what you really want inside of you and what you want in a relationship.
So I would say, so this relationship, like you said, was around 6 years long. And so, it was such a beautiful and great relationship. So for so much of that it was really hard for me to notice when those pieces were. And so I did do a lot of thinking, and I did do a lot of reflecting and processing and talking to a counselor and talking to close friends and family, because I think a lot of what I was learning at this time, so through like my early 20s and through the end of my 20s, was really like that piece about learning like what my boundaries were and like what were my things to work through from my past, and like myself growing as a woman and my career and all those things that happening at the same time, and also like what were his things and what were his things to work on, and that were not my things to control or things that I was responsible for, which was really hard because I really like to like give to others and care for others, and I wanted to be able to fix whatever he needed fixing as well as myself, and that's just not actually like sustainable or reasonable or how a healthy way to really approach a relationship, I think, now for myself. And so for me, like for that 6 years, I had gone back to grad school, and I love to travel, and there's like a lot of things I was exploring and wanting to pursue. And he is more of a homebody. He really he knew exactly where he wanted to work and live and all those things. And for me, I like envied that in a way because I like was always kind of like a wanderer. I still kind of am, and just like connect to people and then kind of explore. And so anyway, there was a lot of those compromises, and for me, a big chunk at first was that piece of not moving and traveling and not seeking to explore the world together and feeling very limited in terms of my. It kind of felt like, even though I don't think he would have ever looked at it as an ultimatum, but for me, it had really felt like, I could either live where he was wanting to go, or that was kind of it. Like, that was my choice, where I felt like that wasn't really a choice. Mm-hmm. So I would say that was like first and foremost the biggest thing early on in the relationship. And then for me, like, I was like, okay, like, I can compromise that because I don't really know where I want to go. I just like want to go places. And so like, okay, like maybe that's just like what it feels to be more grounded. And I wanted to marry this person. And so I was like, okay, like maybe this is a natural part of like settling down.
And sacrificing.
And
like
sacrificing.
Not compromising, We can compromise for each other.
Yeah. But then I kind of did a lot of thinking and like that difference between settling down and settling. And so like it started to become too much like that settling piece where I was giving away just like the things I was passionate about in terms of like exploring and other, I don't know, it sounds so general, but, and then like pieces of just like, I guess just like when there's things, I'm constantly wanting to grow and wanting to try new things, and like we would just have very different interests. So even just like once we lived together, so great for such a while. We would get into a routine, and that felt really wonderful. But then I would want to continue to like push us and try new things, or again, like that travel piece would come up, and it's let's go on an adventure.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't where his interests lie. And so then I would kind of compromise more of those pieces. I would stay in more, or I would, just kind of change my priorities, and in that way, kind of change my values a little bit, which led to kind of, I think, resenting him a bit, which he really just wanted me to be that person he had, fallen in love with as well. And he could see that I was changing myself a lot for him. But then I don't think either of us knew quite how to get out of it. So eventually, we had broken up at one point and gone back together. He had made that call, and, looking back when we did end up ending the relationship, I had really like asked him like, why'd you come back to me if we ended up just ending it 4 years later? Like, that's a long time. But I don't know. I think that I don't know if you ever really know until you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For me, there was definitely a point where I had really had something important that I was taking part in that I wanted him to be there with me for, and he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And I think inside of me, that was like the ultimate line. And like then I was like approaching, like for me, I think just in our society, there is like kind of a pressure on women for your age and for like your, like that biological clock. Everyone's asking you like, when are you gonna get married and have kids and all that? And I was turning 30. And it was like he was great. It was with him and my best friend. And I had this just like moment where I was like, but is this like all there is? Mm-hmm. And like, I've never been one to like feel like okay with that feeling. And so it was that year. So I think I had made that decision internally at the same time as this other situation happened where he wasn't showing, or I didn't feel like he was showing up for me. And I probably wasn't showing up for him in ways he needed, looking back. I don't know, like we've never had that processing together after it ended. But so then I would say like we both kind of brought it up, or I probably brought it up, but again was hoping that it would be a catalyst to change and make this relationship end up working or end it. But I think when it ended, it was just like a very big struggle for me for a long time. Yeah, definitely the next year. And even now, like it still is like, this person was incredibly important to me, and 6 years of your life is a huge amount of time. That's a long answer.
No, but like it's great because sometimes I think as women we go into relationships with persons and then there's like certain things that bother us about these people, or certain things that might not work out for us, and we still continue to go into those relationships. And just like 2 weeks ago, I was listening to a podcast by Jay Shetty, and he had Dr. Oz on there, and Dr. Oz said usually men get married to the woman they dreamed of, and women get married to the men, to their potential. And I think that that has so much truth in it. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that resonates because, I mean, there was so much about him that I loved the way he was, but there's always that piece that I was thinking, like, that's why, you give those pieces your way, why I gave those pieces of me away. It was like, oh, okay, like, this is temporary, like, this will change, or this is what he wants, then he'll be the best at that, and then he'll want to explore more with me, or something about him will change to make it that we grow together in this way, when really, like, that didn't end up happening. And probably if we married, it would not have been a happy marriage, because that would have been our life. But in my head, it was like kind of like romanticizing that potential. Like, oh, okay, like once this happens, then it's like that thing with meditation, like you're not searching for something outward to be happy or in someone else. Like,
did you notice there was no change was happening? There was never going to be change.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like a process throughout that 6 years, because I mean, our lives were also changing a lot individually at that time. Like, I had gone to grad school, and I had got my degree, and I had gotten internships and gotten jobs and done AmeriCorps and all these different things, while he was also finishing his degree and getting a job. So it was hard at times to tell. I think for a lot of it, we were living into our potential in some ways. But I think, like, probably, I mean, I think initially when I moved home after grad school, and only looked for jobs there, when I was really actually wanting to go somewhere else, I think that would be the first sign, which was within the first year or two of the relationship. And then I would say when we lived together, just getting into like a routine, it felt really great for a lot of time, but I always felt like I wanted more. And I think that just feeling stayed for a lot of the time that we were living together. It wasn't like a constant always. It was kind of like, it would kind of come in waves sometimes if I noticed it, but then other times it was kind of like this dull, I don't know, something in the back of your mind, or I guess like in your heart, where you're just kind of like, it's just like this little bit of like, I don't know how to explain it. Not like maybe doubt or curiosity, but it's more just like,
is this it?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess like when people use that word, settling is the best thing. It feels like you're kind of getting a little bit smaller and like down, not like outward growing.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I wanted to ask, like, looking back now, whenever you started sacrificing pieces of you, would you have ended the relationship there? Just because I think sometimes we wait on too long to end something that should be ended a long time ago.
I've thought about that a lot, and that's so hard to, it's so hard even now for me to know that, because there were times like within that 6 years that I can look at and think I'm so grateful that he was part of my life for that time. And like, I had to have some medical things happen, and he took care of me more than I could have asked of. And I just think like, okay, like maybe that was why we were together at that point, and that was really quite far along in our relationship. Or this thing happened, and I can't think of a great example right now, but I feel like there are moments along that 6. Plus, when you love someone, like, you never want it to end. So like, I held on even past the point of it being healthy for me.
Exactly.
And like, so it's hard to say when. So like, yeah. So like, I guess, yeah, I could have ended it within 6 months, or could have ended it within a year or 2 years.
I just want to stop you there, because you said something really important when you said it was healthy for me. And why, like I want to find the answer, like why do we keep on going into something that's not healthy for us? Because it's like I feel like sometimes when you're not getting what you deserve in a relationship, or what you believe a relationship should be about, it creates this stress on you. It creates this stress on you, and it also like makes you question your self-worth. Are you not enough, like, for this person to change? So like,
yeah.
How do you like, like, I feel like we need to put ourselves first, and like there's a stigma, like, for women, they should be the ones taking care of everybody else, and that we should give out of our cup. But what if our cup is not full? I think we should give whatever's overflowing.
Yeah.
And
I think for me, I've thought about that, and I think it's like a few things. I think it's because, I don't know, I feel like I always grew up, and I don't know if it's just from like movies or like what people tell you, but like I always grew up like believing that like love is enough, and like love can make any circumstance work and better, and that it always, like in our society, we're always saying if you try hard or if you work hard, you'll get whatever you want. You can have whatever you want in this world if you just work hard and work hard. And I mean, as you grew up, of course, like there's a lot of systems that like in every aspect that don't allow that. That's not really the case that like really works. But I feel like that's kind of like embedded so much when we're young that it's like, oh, just try harder and you'll succeed. And then it's like, but I don't think we have enough conversation around like boundaries and healthy boundaries, because I think like I think a lot of us learn by trial and error. And when you do get heartbroken, and when you do end up like losing friends, or like whatever the situation may be, whatever relationship, it applies to all relationships, like those healthy boundaries. And I think like a lot of it has to do with like knowing, like for me, like knowing myself really well first, and like knowing like what my tendencies are, what my behaviors are, my patterns are, so that I can fix them on my own and not look to someone else to be that solution. Yeah, or like give your power, because I think in a way that's like me giving my power away to someone else, thinking like, oh, they love me, they can save me, they'll be happy. Yeah, and it's like, well, I've never really wanted that feeling of someone else saving me. I've wanted it myself. So like, what, is it just that I think maybe underestimating how hard work that is? Yeah, that can be, and it can be really lonely at times. And like for me, it was a matter of like choosing that loneliness versus choosing and working through that so it doesn't feel lonely, versus choosing like the loneliness of an unhappy relationship, or the loneliness of a relationship where I'm not fully myself, because that's very lonely too. I think that was part of the line that you were looking for too when I started feeling lonely.
And going back to what you said earlier, you said, is this it? You like when you were in your relationship, is this it? And there's like a lot of like, people get married sometimes when they've been together for like over 6 years, and it works out perfectly. And sometimes it doesn't work out. And there's people who meet each other for like a year, and then they get married, and they have like the perfect marriage. And did you ever have that feeling like, oh, this is the love of my life?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah. Okay. But I also think that it, again, like maybe this is just like maybe a little bit more cynical, but like I don't think there are things that's like a perfect marriage. Like I think from the outside, that's what we're kind of fed from like celebrity relationships, or like ones that you see, social media and all that. And like for me, that was like another boundary I set recently, and on and off at different times. It's like, okay, I'm just taking a break from all social media, because for me, I'm really working on like my relationships being like authentically my own, and that they might have to look different than they should look different than they have in the past. And also just like not settling for people not meeting me where I'm at, when I've like worked hard to meet them where they're at.
That takes so much like love, like self-love, because sometimes we meet people, they're halfway when they're not even half far away, and we have to make up for what they don't give out.
Well, I've had a lot of people mentor me kind of in the process, or just like, but yeah, I think that I've also witnessed a lot of relationships in my life where I have seen the women sacrifice so much of themselves, and that I have again, from the outside, it's easier to say like, oh, you should have ended it at this point,
Yeah.
or, but I think like there is still, I mean, not as much. It depends on your family and your culture and everything, but like divorcing can be seen as like a really something you just don't really do, or is that like something you value, and so I think there's a lot of pressure to stay in relationships, even though now I know like divorce rates are so high, and people say like they're not, marriage isn't taken as seriously, so people need to kind of go back and work harder at it. But I think it comes down to, I don't know, for me, I like just recognize I can't like know or judge other people's relationships, but for me, like really setting my own boundaries and making sure that like I have a counselor, someone I can lean on that can really help me know those signs earlier and know things that like I can improve with myself, but also being really kind and patient to myself, because I could put a lot of pressure on myself that I can control, you know, my life and what happens to me. And and I think being really like honest and communicating with your partner or whoever enters your life that you want to love and continue with, the things that you're looking for and what you need, and then being brave enough to end it if you feel like this is not what I want and this is not what I'm looking for, and not, like you said, like not living into like the potential, not putting like the romanticizing the potential.
Yeah,
like
of a man.
What's the reality?
Or anybody, if you're love partner.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, you just said, what did you just say?
I don't know, I babble a lot.
You said potential. Oh, you were talking about what we want in a relationship. And, I feel like as women, we usually just go with the flow with the relationship. And we don't set standards, or we don't ask ourselves, what do we want out of a relationship? So that's why we end up, just taking that path of that specific relationship and not having your desires and what you want in a relationship.
I think what happens, from what I see though, because I see what you're saying, I think though when we do voice, again, this is like a broad statement or like stereotype, but I think when women do voice what they want, a lot of times it can either come off or be perceived as like nagging, or like things like, I think it's like a big part of the communication piece where the woman then like will say like, these are the things that I want from you, and then the guy feels like they're like constantly in trouble, or like not like living up to it. Yeah, at least are feeling like you're always disappointing. And the woman is like, I feel like there's maybe this piece of like she's demanding, or like, demanding things like in the daily routine of like the household or chores or bills or like whatever, but like the bigger pieces, I think is where it really like, I feel like it comes down is like, okay, it's like really the vision for your life and like what you want there, and I think those pieces aren't being voiced maybe, or aren't being communicated.
I was thinking more of like the qualities of a person, like their character, and like sometimes we overlook those things, and that's when we get in trouble. So I completely understand. Go ahead.
Well, I've also just like read a lot of books, and I worked at different organizations that like have like a lot of resources to relationships, and when I had worked on previously, actually when this relationship had started, was at like a feminist organization, and I had actually like read a lot of material about like female empowerment, and I mean I think people have different opinions of that word feminism, but like for me it's like just equality. And so a big piece or something I had read once was about like how women can approach relationships as like a scarcity approach, like thinking there aren't enough men, aren't enough like quality men to go around, so you kind of end up settling with someone that you think is good enough.
Okay.
And I can't like reference it, so long ago I can't like think of like the reference of where it was, but like that kind of, it always stuck with me because I kind of felt like I had seen that in a lot of relationships around me, and I had kind of like lived it for a little bit, thinking like, and this is not that this person, I do think that this person is still like a really wonderful, great person, and maybe someone else they'll be able to like, maybe our relationship like has allowed their growth in a different way and my growth in a different way. But like it wasn't working. It wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, that 100%.
And it's so good that you say that. Because I feel, we all know that we gravitate towards similarities, and sometimes what we see at home, we have a little better than that than my mom had or than your mom had. Then we're like, okay, this is good. We kind of settle, but deep down inside of us, we know that we wish there was a little more. And I think us women and young ladies, women should know that they shouldn't settle because they're worth so much more. I mean, every person on this earth is. And I want to ask, what advice would you give to a young 20-year-old?
Like my younger version?
In a relationship, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still learning all this stuff still, but I would say first and foremost, like, know yourself so well, and like the way you communicate love. Like, there's a lot of books out there about your love language and your love everything. So like the way that you need love, the way you can communicate love and your needs, and just like knowing like your boundaries so that you feel safe. Like emotionally and physically and all those things safe, so that you know how to let someone else know your boundaries, and then holding on to them when it feels really great and when it feels not so great. That there should be a lot more times. Like I don't know, because I still like have quite experiences, but people say like relationships should be easy. It shouldn't feel like so much hard work. And so feeling like once the work feels like it's more work, like I think anytime relationships are going to end up being hard work, but like when it feels like there's
too much.
Yeah, like that's more work than it is, that you feel like at ease with, I guess, yeah.
What's your mantra?
Right now, okay, it changes a lot. I have a lot of them that I have gone through, especially through like processing this relationship. Right now, I would say I will not be moved. My friend gave me that one a few months ago at this point, and it kind of just applied to me not compromising a lot.
That's so powerful. Like I would not be moved.
Yeah, and my values and my yeah,
that's beautiful. That's just because we sometimes as women we compromise so much more than we should. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.